This is day 1 of the November 05 7-day retreat in Springwater. Let me say ahead of this talk that if there's anything that is not clear or that you disagree with or would like to have repeated or would like to take further, then please do that in the group meetings. That's what they're there for. The usual pattern is that there's a lot of empty, silent space in the beginning, which is a wonderful thing, but it takes away from the hour. And then at the end, we don't have enough time. So if you have a little idea of what you're going to ask, if there is something to ask, then please do it. You don't have to worry about how you express yourself. It will come with the flow, with the going with it. We'll help each other out. Now, in the first talk, I usually, they're doing it better than I, talk about listening. And I say a new kind of listening because you could respond, well, we all know how to listen. That is a birthright. We all know how to listen. We don't have to learn that. And that's true. We do listen because sounds hit the eardrums and whatever all the mechanism is. But in time we have forgotten to listen in an innocent way. Listen without knowing. Or like the very first book we put out was called Seeing Without Knowing. You could substitute listening without knowing or touching without knowing. Talking without knowing? Why not? Let it come, and then if it is not clear, we will sort it out together. So what is a new kind of listening that maybe was there in our very earliest days and years or maybe months, and that sort of was pushed in the background or overlaid with all the things that we know and want to do with the person or the people to whom we talk. Do we want to impress them? Do we want to get their attention? You can ask yourself, and in saying something, do I want to get attention? Of course I do. If somebody else who is sitting here is remembering what happened last night or last year when you were here, then you can't listen completely. Because the mind is partially, to a larger or lesser degree, occupied with the memory video or stereo. It may not be accompanied by pictures. Some people are more visual than others. But something is going on that occupies the brain. It's clear. One can begin to notice that, how the brain can be very divided in listening, partly remembering what was going on and try to focus on that. And what did she say right now? It has escaped the attention. So, we never say, although it comes out this way, or it is perceived this way, as though I said, don't do this, rather do that. Don't listen and think of something else. No, we can't say that. We do it. It happens. It's not that that there is somebody who does it, but it happens. A very strong memory may be evoked by the sunshine coming through the windows, or a talk, something that is said, somebody who is in this retreat, or several people elicit a memory of what was. And with that memory, the listening is not complete. It is fragmented. So, is it possible to listen completely? And don't say right away, no, this is impossible. You can't do this, because the brain is too used to be occupied with its memories. It's too habituated to that. Let's be on guard with saying this is impossible. Because it's amazing as you begin to attend to what is going on in yourself and in your interaction with each other. Amazing what is possible with this, again, amazing meditative attention. Attending without knowing, all of oneself being here. And you could say, I don't know what that is. I don't know how to do it, and I don't know how to do it either. But it happens as we become more aware of what goes on in this brain. Maybe with a strong wind like this, or gusts. One remembers what has happened in the south. Terrific windstorm, destroying things, and when the woodwork rattles and the roof the tiles seem to shake, then it's very easy that the mind is, we say, distracted. It's not exactly a distraction, it is what is evoked by this stimulus of wind sound and the trees that rustle, the leaves and branches. Amazing. So you could ask yourself, or we can all ask ourselves, is it possible to listen completely? Okay. A memory comes up of a hurricane, if you have been in one, or if you have read about one, and to notice how the attention is divided. Nobody is doing it, it happens. Because part of the brain is now occupied with this present occurrence. Because it may have to do something. We may have to run out of here, or I don't know what all the precautions are to lie flat on the floor or go into a basement. We have no hurricanes here, or not many, so we don't know yet. But the brain is there in order to preserve us, keep us alive, and for that it has to scan the knowledge. What do you do with a storm like this, or is this storm dangerous? So all of these things have mostly a function, not always, but a lot of occurrences in the brain have a function to guard us, to protect us. And then at this moment, the paramount thing is to be protected from wind, not to listen some kind of a crazy talk about listening. And then to take a moment, I should talk slower and have some breaks in there, so the mind-brain attention can slow down and open up wide. And right now the good thing is, as far as I know, there is no danger in this wind. It isn't that fast and furious. So we can listen without all kinds of motives to protect us. Just notice what crops up in the mind, so we learn more about ourselves, not just about tornadoes, but about ourselves. How do we function? It's an amazing thing. This brain with its capacities to remember, to protect, to know, and also to quiet down. In not knowing. Does it make any sense not to know? If we're honest, do we know what not knowing is? It's a paradox, isn't it? To know what it is to not know. To really just completely listen. Because I don't have to protect myself or others right now. The ears and mind and whole body can be open. If there are tensions, cramps, it's okay to let them go because they have no function right now. They are just fossil remainders from past occurrences where there was danger or hurt. So right now, tensions, all they need to do is come into awareness. And the tension, to get rid of them. There's the tension, and then there's the tension to get rid of the tension. It sounds complicated, but this is what is going on in this human body-mind. And then, what is complete listening? What is she talking about? Maybe we leave out the word complete because a lot of associations come up. Am I complete? Are others complete? More complete than I am? This is not, it is not in a good place here to compare. Although this is what the mind does. We have grown up to compare ourselves to others. We want to be the best, or we are always afraid of not being the best, of being not as good as, and that impedes the listening. What if you were completely sure, rest assured, that it doesn't matter whether you listen well or as well as somebody else? It doesn't matter. It's just the sound of the wind, the rustling of the leaves, swallowing, and the sound of it, the feel of it. And a thought intervening, am I doing it right? Am I doing as good as? And oops, where was that attention? It was here a moment ago. Now there's comparison going on. And depending on how I've been conditioned, either I feel I'm better than others, or I feel I'm worse than others, or as good as. There are all kinds of gradations. Keeping this brain and body very busy and not in touch with the subtleties of the moment. What are they? I don't know. We need to listen. There. We don't need to know. There's no test at the end of the retreat. Markings, whether one has passed or not. It seems to be strange now to think of this kind of a world where you cram, that word is used, isn't it? To cram for a good grade. No, this is, even though the body may be conditioned still to work as though there was a test at the end of this course, of this hour, of this retreat. But there isn't. So to become aware of how conditioned we are by previous occurrences. Amazing, isn't it? It's still brought into this hall here, even though it is not needed. And yet the body is very engaged. It spends energies on that. Energies of emotions, because it's not just thinking I'm not as good as or I'm better than, but or I will get a good mark or a poor mark. It's not just thinking that, but there's a whole bunch of emotions, physical tensions accompanying those thoughts. And then emotions about the emotions. I'm getting too emotional. I wish I was calmer. We live a very complicated life, don't we? And what a marvelous thing to have a place to come to where you can sit down, relax, and let the show go by. You're just sitting there watching, awareing. As Sunyata said around the turn of the century. Not this century, past century. Let the thoughts go by, come and go. Let the emotions come and go. Let the judgments, bad and good, come and go. And what the triggers in the body, wonderful feelings and terrible feelings, let them come and go. And they will come and go, if not more is made of it than what they have already aroused. They've already aroused something. We may not notice it, but something is going on with every thought. Every thought leaves a trace. But it doesn't leave much of a trace if it is seen, acknowledged, and nothing made of it. The emotions is seen, acknowledged, felt, nothing made of it. Judgment coming to an end in this presence of being here with a whole circus or circuit. So to begin to listen to the whole thing, at first just the pebble dropped into the lake with a little splash and a little ring, and then wider and wider and wider rings. It's nice when you sit at the pond, you can watch it ad infinitum. The rings till they touch the shore. It's a little shore, a little pond shore. And the weeds sort of vibrate a bit. Right now it's the dried out weeds. I don't know why we call them weeds. Well, that's beside the point right now. It's just the rings that are drawn in the brain too. You think of this and then you think of that. And you just watch it all. Acknowledge it. I don't mean we can make a big deal out of it. Acknowledging is not a chore, not a duty. It just happens when something is seen and let go. It's a relief. You don't have to do anything with anything. Isn't it marvelous? And nothing is going to be done to you either. We talked about being graded. to acknowledge what all you have learned and how well you have learned it or how poorly. So you have to do some more studying, have to take the course over. All of that does not apply here, because it's always new and fresh, this listening into empty space. So we've touched on quite a number of things of our known and learned listening. And here, it is just a matter of awareing it all, not doing anything about it. You may hear, and maybe the way I'm talking, may sound this way, that you're supposed to change now. You're supposed to change into a purer listening. None of that is the case. You're not supposed to do anything. Let the change, if it happens, occur on its own. That's the marvelous thing, that when there is this simple, innocent listening, changes do occur. I don't know what, but they do occur. You can tell every once in a while that something that used to annoy you doesn't bother you anymore. How amazing. You realize, or you remember, how upset you used to get over when somebody said this or that in this tone or that. And now, it can happen. Things can be said in a threatening tone or in an insulting tone. And you can just listen. Not as a coat of armor, because I know nothing is going to happen to me now, I've learned it all, to let it run off me. No, it is quite different from letting it run off. It is attending to it thoroughly, to the reactions that have already sprung up in the body or want to come up. And the amazing thing is when they are really listened to caringly, carefully, they may not have to express themselves. The reaction, the defense, the aggression against the person who said this doesn't have to happen in this wholesome, benign listening. Quite amazing. And you notice when you do react, something wells up in you, some chemicals. You want to attack the other person or do the same to him or her as they just did to you. This is also programmed into our whole system. Not exactly intentionally, although it's intentional too. We may have learned it from our holy books, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But it also happens involuntarily. I think it's a natural response. Maybe it is survival response or protection to do back what was done to us. We often have been told, and now we tell it to others, so that we learn how it feels to be insulted or hit or robbed or whatever. We take it for granted that this is the proper response. But here, in a place like this, so open, so at ease, we can question everything. Everything that we have assumed was necessary, was taken for granted, can be questioned. Does it have to be this way? Because the body says, yes, I want to get my justice has to be done. You hear this so much. Every time there's another attack, we will bring all of these people to justice. We don't have that many lawyers and courts to bring all of these people to justice. But we promise it to the people because it's what we want to hear, isn't it? And what a strange satisfaction. Do you have this satisfaction, or do you not react that way? I think I used to react like that, and maybe I do at times, but now I can just wonder what a strange reaction to want justice be done by punishing, electrocuting, or whatever means. Get rid of this person who did it, so that justice be done, or that they are brought to justice. What a crazy thought. But the body demands it, doesn't it? Why? Does it? Does it need it? It always surprises me or amazes me, is the best word, when after somebody has been electrocuted or hung or whatever the means are for the time being, people going away from the show, the prison, wherever this took place, the execution, say, now I feel relieved. Now I feel a great release and gratitude to God, maybe, that justice has been done. This all happens up in the brain, in the mind, and in this whole body that accompanies the brain with its orchestration. So we have this wonderful opportunity, a place with big rooms, large windows, or we can go outside if we're hardy. On a cold day, it takes some hardiness to step outside, let the wind blow right through you. So we have this place where we can question all the things that have been crammed into us, either by evolution or by, what is it called? Intelligent design. Intelligent design is an interesting concept because we cannot deny that there is an amazing intelligence when animals have these cover colors adjusted to the environment so they cannot be detected easily. Like the tiger who goes through through a meadow, the tundra with grasses, and you've probably seen it in pictures, stills and movie, these sunlit grasses, and they throw their shadows, and it looks just like the skin of a tiger. Light and dark, and light and dark. So how did this happen? Now did this, what is assumed by people, was there a creator who thought all of that? It was a big thinking mind to think of getting that into a tiger skin. This, of course, I cannot follow this kind of reasoning. I can only stand and wonder and awe about the occurrence of mimicry, is it called, or what is it called? Camouflage. Yeah, we try to copy it with our little costumes, war costumes. Kids put them on and feel important. They're already like the adults. So where was I? I got lost on the tiger trail.
All these things we had crammed into us.
Yeah. And what becomes evident is there's no one here doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not guilty or to be congratulated. These are all marvelous, awesome occurrences for which no one really has a complete explanation. We want to explain it in one way or another and then join different camps that fight each other. Mine is right, or your theory is wrong, or whatever. But when you study these things or are open, when it's presented to you, there are some wonderful movies, what is it called, when they're about natural occurrences. When it's not a plot in there, but just, although... Yeah, what was it? Documentaries, yes. Although I've heard some also awesome stories how these documentaries can be fixed. So to take everything with a grain of salt, not to just swallow it. But yeah, you can leave a space open that it may not be so, that may be doctored up. And still the fact is that there is a tiger with these amazing stripes, or a lion, or a dark-skinned or dark-furred panther. How did this all happen? But not to look for an explanation, but to be just awed by it, amazed at the conditioning, not just on the verbal and behavior level, well, the way we often talk about conditioning, namely our way of responding and reacting. But we come into a conditioned body, or a conditioned body is developing, unfolding. Conditioned by memory, not in this case memory in the brain alone, but this whole body is a storehouse of memory. Remembered things of thousands and thousands and millions of years of development, evolution. I'm not trying to propagate a theory, but I find it intriguing that this is also memory, just some other form of it than an individual memory. It is a whole memory of the race, or the animals, the continents, the stones. So can we question together and alone this whole assumption of there being a me and an I that does things and that is accountable for what it does? You hear that a lot these days. You have to be made accountable for what you're doing, or you're not made accountable. That's bad. But we can say these things, but still not really get any place with it, with this holding somebody accountable. It just never quite works this way as we are seeing now. I don't want to go into it. But we still believe it. Somehow or other, there is a me, an I, and a you who does things and who could do things better if you just pull yourself together. If you just want to change, then you could change by going to prison, or whatever all our devious methods are to try to change people or ourselves. And try to test this assumption here on a simple level in retreat. Try to see whether you can change one little thing. Can you change not to think of this or that all the time? Well, the moment you intend to do this, you already have transgressed, because now you think of what you want to change. Try it, and the thoughts will go, whether you want it or not, will come and go. Maybe the more you want not to have them come, the more they come. You can find out so much about this, the existence or non-existence of a deciding, willing, choosing me. We'll go into this. We have six more days. And usually this thing of free choice is so deeply lodged that it'll come up again in groups. We don't want to give up that almost sacred notion that we have free choice. You have the notion that you have free choice, because you'll bring up some example like, well, I can raise my hand right now and pick up this glass of juice. That I choose to drink, but it's too simplistic. If you really listen in a new way to just attend to all that goes into it. Why did I pick up the glass? Because I chose to, or because I needed an example and something reminded me of a different occasion where somebody used this as an example? It worked well. Try it for yourself. I don't want to work so hard right now to figure out or try to bring up on the screen an example where I thought I had the choice, and it turns out that it was just this led to that, and then to this. A whole chain of reactions in which there's no outstanding individual who chooses this. We can do it sometime in the question period. Don't get angry if you feel hemmed in by people who will ask questions. Because sometimes when it gets close to uprooting a favorite notion or assumption, we get annoyed or angry or possessive about our cherished notion. There's so much to learn about ourselves when we begin to wonder and question and listen without knowing. I wonder whether this is enough for one day about a new kind of listening. Come back to the simple. The open ears, attending. We will end here for today.